What's going on, Pittsburgh? In this video, we speak to world-famous photographer Henry Chalfont, who photographed the graffiti art in New York and around the world.
I'm Henry Chalfant, and I'm a photographer and a sculptor, and I'm probably best known for my documentation of New York subway graffiti, which took place back in the late 70s and early 80s of the last century. Well, I have many connections to Pittsburgh, among which is that I spent my first 14 years in Sewickley, and which is basically a suburb of Pittsburgh. And after I went away to college and got married and spent some time in Europe, I decided to move to New York City because both my wife and I, our mentors, suggested that that was the best place to go if we wanted to have careers in the arts. And so that's what happened. And then after I started to do my study of graffiti and came out with a book called Subway Art and a film called Style Wars about New York subway graffiti, I began to be interested in making a second book about graffiti as it spread out around the world. And since I had a connection to Pittsburgh and I was going back and forth to visit my family, I was able to meet people here who were involved with the art form. And I was contacted by a young man here who wrote to me in New York and said he was an artist, and he sent me pictures of his artwork. And so he was one of he wrote Buddha. He was one of the people that I first knew who were writing graffiti. And through him, I got to know Dazaz, who at the time was a 14-year-old who was a really incredible rapper. And I had never heard somebody so young being so proficient at the art form. So I got to know him too, and he's still a friend, and he's part of this reason I'm here today. Well, I was a newcomer to New York in the mid-70s. In 1973 we moved there, and graffiti art there had evolved beyond just tagging on various surfaces, and there were actual paintings, three-dimensional paintings, beautiful style. Wild style was being done as early as 1973, and I watched it evolve for a couple of years before I couldn't stand it any longer. I thought I really have to be able to document this, and I didn't know how to do it until I found my way to the outer boroughs where the trains run on elevated tracks, and then I understood that was how I was going to be able to document the trains. And now I'm archiving my collection. I have to start thinking about a legacy and where I'm going to put the collection. So given that I'm 85 years old, and I think it's high time I began to pay attention to that. But whatever I do with it, I have to document it as best I can, archive it, and be able to answer who did what piece of art and where and when, those basic things. Plus, I think I'll write a book about my experience. The core of it are the trains, and the trains they're 550 full, complete, painted train cars that I have. And when I say they're 550 train cars, it means you can multiply that 4 or 5 times, because I took the pictures in sequence, because I had a 50 millimeter lens, and I couldn't get back from the station platform from which I was taking the pictures. So I took the pictures, and then I had to splice them together. And until digitization, that's how I did it. So I'm shooting. I'm drawn to natural scenes, objects, rocks, trees, olive trees, gnarled olive trees that look like you can see faces in them, and things that catch my attention in nature. I'll say, oh, I got to take a picture of that. The nature stuff, I've not made it public yet. It's been very personal, and maybe I will if I accumulate enough pictures, I might do that. But the original book was a collaboration with Martha Cooper, who was a photojournalist, and the original version of that is out of print. There's a second version, it's called Subway Art, which focuses on more trains, more pictures, and less text. And to me, that's, I'm sorry that the original book is no longer in print because the text was very important. But that's how it goes. You can still find it on eBay for a significant amount of money. Yeah. I tell them to get out into the world, to stop looking at Instagram and then stuff like that. Just you know, be in the world with your camera. You find incredible things that happen. I mean, and also the other thing about talking about graffiti is that the original form was on 600 miles of track, and there was 600 miles of imagery going on every day, and it was changing. That was the kind of thing which is done on the internet now, but there was pre-internet, and so it was kind of the first sort of communication system of imagery that was taking place, certainly amongst adolescents. So, you know, you could regret that that's not going to be repeated anytime soon, but it just goes to show that the world is still outside, and that's where you should be taking pictures. Don't get locked up in, you know, the spiral of screens.